Hello, I'm Evan Mitchell, music director of the Kingston Symphony Orchestra, and for the week of February the 23rd, here's what's on. Now, we at the Symphony adore performing for you. We love all the orchestral repertoire. We love performing this music live for you on stage. And it's such a transcendental thing because we play it once, and that particular performance only happens just that one time, and it's immediate, and it's impactful, and it never happens exactly the same way again. And that's just one of the many reasons why we're so happy to be performing for you week in and week out. But I have to admit that all of us always feel something particularly special whenever we're performing music of Russian composers. There's just something about the fire and the spirit of Russian compositions that it's really unique in orchestral music. And so that's why we're so excited about this upcoming concert on Sunday, March the 1st at 2:30 p.m. at the Grand Theater, in which we're performing the music of three wonderful Russian composers, Borodin, Rachmaninoff, and Tchaikovsky. So let's start off with Alexander Borodin, who is arguably the least well-known of the three composers on this program. Borodin was actually a fascinating individual. He was a chemist and a doctor by trade, and he never actually fully pursued composition full-time, in spite of the urgings of his fellow composers who saw that he was an enormously talented individual. And in this, the selection from Prince Igor, the Polovetzian Dances, arguably his finest work, Borodin never lived to actually complete this opera, Prince Igor, and so it was left to Rimsky-Korsakov to orchestrate and patch together the pieces in a way that he felt that Borodin would actually organically write things himself. Alexander Glazunov also helped, filling in some of the bits from Act 3, and also, apparently, as the story goes, he reconstructed the overture largely from memory, having heard it performed so many times while in the presence of Alexander Borodin. Prince Igor is a magnificent work, but inarguably one of the highlights are these Polovetzian dances, which are somewhat of a diversion in the midst of the opera, but it's such a fiery and passionate orchestral selection. We're thrilled to be starting off this concert with the Polovetzian dances, and what's neat about them structurally is that it starts with a particular theme that recurs throughout the piece, but more importantly forms the basis of a series of variations upon this theme as the dances progress. Here's a little taste of that theme in action at the very beginning of the Polovetzian dances. Next up, we're moving on to Rachmaninoff's immortal Rhapsody on a Theme of Paganini. And this is a particularly fascinating piece. I actually have to admit that I think it's my very favorite piece for piano and orchestra. I just adore the way that it's put together, and I think it's so inspired and so beautiful and so colorful, and it shows off both the soloist and the orchestra in such an incredible way that it really is the perfect piece for piano and orchestra. There are a few things I definitely want to bring to your attention concerning this piece. First off, it is a set of 24 variations on Paganini's original Caprice, the last in his set of 24. And this is a very famous melody that seemed to inspire an awful lot of composers, not least of which Rachmaninoff, who have, of course, composed a set of variations around this particular theme, including the 18th variation, which is not only Rachmaninoff's most famous melody, but arguably one of the most famous selections in music of all time. Rachmaninoff, in this composition of the piece, also shared a trait with Paganini, the long-standing tradition of composers being also virtuosic performers. Rachmaninoff was one of the leading pianists of his day. He had enormous hands, could play huge stretches. He was an incredible virtuoso and, of course, a deep and wonderfully rich musician. And we actually have some recordings that exist of Rachmaninoff performing this piece, and that's a real treasure for us to be able to have that archive to refer to really know what the composer's original intentions were for this piece. And I'm thrilled to be having Avon Yu, my old friend, come in to be our soloist and our guest for this particular concert. Avon is no stranger to the Rhapsody in the Theme of Paganini. In fact, he made his Vancouver Symphony debut performing this piece, and he wowed everyone there. Avon is a true master of the piano, and he's so young and so fiery. It's just going to be the perfect recipe for a magnificent performance of the Rhapsody on a Theme of Paganini. So what I'm going to do for you right now is I'm going to play for you, again, indisputably the most popular portion of this piece, and that is the celebrated 18th variation, which is actually put together by taking the original Paganini theme and turning it upside down. Here we go. Last but certainly not least, we have Tchaikovsky's Sixth Symphony, his Pathétique Symphony. And there's so much to say about this particular piece, it's actually kind of daunting knowing where to start. This was his final symphony and his final published work. In fact, he conducted the premiere and he was dead 6 weeks later. And there's an awful lot of speculation about the nature of Tchaikovsky's death. Was it an accidental poisoning? Was it an intentional poisoning? Was it, in fact, a suicide where he decided that he would deliberately ingest choleric water and then refuse treatment? We'll never really know for sure, and there are all sorts of conspiracy theories. Of course, the loss of Tchaikovsky was a devastating blow to musicians and music lovers everywhere, but we have this piece, which for me is his finest work, absolutely. It's the one that is not only the most honest, the most pure, the most powerful, but it is the one that transcends mere music making and goes on just an incredible emotional journey. And it's such a deep experience to hear this piece live and go on the same emotional journey that Tchaikovsky did at the end of his life, when he was obviously in a very dark place and pondering his own mortality and looking back with joy and fondness and sadness over the course of his life. And I just know it's going to be played with incredible passion by your Kingston Symphony Orchestra. This is a concert and a piece that we've all been looking forward to ever since the beginning of the season. So in the vein of spectacular melodies, I'm going to play for you one of the most haunting, one of the most personal melodies of Tchaikovsky's Sixth Symphony, the Pathétique. So, for this week, that's what's on. If you'd like to learn more about this program or any of the other concerts the Kingston Symphony performs, then browse to kingstonsymphony.on.ca. Purchasing tickets couldn't be easier. You can give us a call at 613 546-9729 and speak with one of our wonderful patron service representatives, or you can buy tickets online at kingstonsymphony.on.ca. Thanks for listening to What's On, and I'll see you at the concert.